What's up, Washington Commanders fans? What I have to say today is tough, but it's our reality. Today, we're going to talk about what's going on behind the scenes with the Commanders, and about some players who will be traded if this crisis of losses and injuries worsens. The expectations we had for 2025 of maybe even reaching a final, all of that is falling apart. The humiliating loss to the Dallas Cowboys in Week 7 was more than just a bad score. It was a red flag. We are 3-4, and the season is on the line. And what I'm bringing you today isn't about the game that just happened, it's about the immediate future. Adam Peters and the front office are watching, and if this losing crisis worsens, several player trades will happen, and many of them could be traded or be off the team. Stick with me, because I have the list of the top names who could be on their way out. So don't forget to hit the like button. It's just one click, and it helps me out a lot. Let's be honest with each other. We were fooled. That spectacular first year under the new regime seems to have been a distant dream. The reality is that this team, which was supposed to be contending, is 3-4 and looking terrible. Some reporters, like Nikki Javala, noted during the summer that the energy wasn't right and were criticized by US fans. But now, with 7 games played, we have to admit they were right. The loss in Dallas was a humiliation that reopened all the wounds. And the problem, fans, is that there's nowhere to run. Our schedule moving forward is a nightmare. We have games against the Kansas City Chiefs, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Detroit Lions coming up. Barring a drastic and miraculous improvement, there's a very real possibility that Dan Quinn's team will be 3-7 before they even make the trip to Spain. A 3-7 scenario means one thing: season over. And that happens right as we approach the trade deadline. This is where our general manager, Adam Peters, comes in. He is not Ron Rivera. Peters has been extremely aggressive in building this roster in recent months, bringing in veterans and creating what he thought was a win-now team. But he's also proven that he has no problem moving on from players who aren't working out. This freefall continues over the next few weeks, and I believe it will. Peters is going to stop thinking about 2025 and start planning for the future, selling off valuable assets to accumulate draft capital. So, who is on the hot seat? Who are the players that could be traded if this crisis worsens? The first name is one of our big recent draft disappointments, tight end Ben Sinnott. We are almost halfway through his second season, and we still have absolutely no idea what he can become. This is a harsh criticism of his development, but it's mainly proof of the absolute lack of confidence the coaching staff has in him. We had huge expectations for Sinnott when the Commanders picked him in the second round of the 2024 draft. He was practically non-existent in his rookie season, staying behind Zach Ertz and John Bates on the depth chart. Most of us, fans and analysts, expected him to finally get more chances this year, but the worrying trend continues. He looks lost on the field when he gets the chance, and most of the time he doesn't even get that. Think about it. With all our injury problems at wide receiver with McLaurin, Samuel, and Brown out, Ben Sinnott had only one measly target in the passing game. One. That's unbelievable. He participated in about 28% of the offensive snaps, but almost always as an extra blocker or in garbage time. He is not part of the game plan. Simply put, Sinnott is a big question mark. He is a failed project. But there are still teams out there that had a high grade on him when he came out of college. If one of those teams calls Adam Peters and makes a legitimate offer, perhaps a 4th or 5th round pick, Peters can and should consider pulling the plug on this project. It's better to get something for him now than to cut him for nothing in a year. The second name on the list is another young player who simply disappeared, offensive lineman Brandon Coleman. His situation is even more baffling. This is a guy who was a starter at left tackle last season, a 2024 third round pick who had an important role. Now, he is a complete outcast on the roster, and there is no concrete explanation from the coaching staff as to why. Coleman was transitioning inside to the guard position this offseason. This happened after we traded for Laramie Tunsil and spent a high pick on Josh Conerly Jr. Everything seemed to be going well during summer practices. However, the coaching staff quickly gave up on that experiment. They had no patience with his development at the new position. After Coleman struggled to find consistency in the first 2 games of the season, he was summarily removed from the starting rotation, giving way to Chris Paul. And to make matters worse for Coleman, Chris Paul has been playing very well since taking over. This means Coleman is buried on the bench, with no prospect of returning to the field anytime soon. Maybe it's just a performance issue and nothing more. But, as we'll see, other veterans also didn't play well and continued to get chances. Turning a second-year pro, a recent draft pick, into a spectator says everything we need to know about his future here. It's not common to trade young offensive linemen, but if someone shows up with a decent offer, it's a real possibility. Now let's go to the veterans, and here things get expensive. The third name is Nick Allegretti. When teams start selling assets, they target 2 things: young players who failed, like the ones I mentioned, or expensive veterans who aren't delivering. Allegretti fits perfectly into the second group. He came here with 3-time Super Bowl champion status to be a pillar of experience on our line. He did not start the season well and was replaced by Andrew Wiley at right guard after just 2 games. Since being benched, Allegretti has played only one single offensive play. One. Now, with Sam Cosmi finally back from injury, the veteran is lower on the depth chart than ever. He is, at best, the 4th or 5th name in the interior rotation. The problem is his contract. Teams are always looking for experienced depth on the offensive line, but Allegretti is due to make $7.17 million next year. That is too much money for a backup who doesn't even see the field. His production doesn't justify anywhere near that value. If Peters can find a team willing to absorb part of that salary in exchange for a low pick, he will do it without thinking twice. The 4th name is the one that hurts the most. It's the one that represents Adam Peters' biggest failure so far, Marshon Lattimore. The Commanders have received absolutely nothing in return for the considerable investment we made in him. Peters acquired him before the 2024 trade deadline, thinking the team was growing fast and that Lattimore would be the final piece, the elite cornerback who would help us win the division. We couldn't have been more wrong. Lattimore is an easy scapegoat for the defense's problems, but he is also held to a higher standard, and rightly so. He has gone from being one of the most consistent cornerbacks in the league to being a walking liability in critical moments. It's explosive plays he gives up. It's the horrible technique that results in numerous pass interference penalties. He's a first down machine for the opponents. Opposing offenses no longer avoid him. They look for him. They actively target Lattimore as the weak link in our secondary, and it's working game after game. John Keem of ESPN revealed that Washington has no plans to bench him at this time. But if his slump and the team's losing streak continue in the coming weeks, especially against offenses like the Chiefs, Peters will have to swallow his pride and try to get something in return. It won't be anywhere near what we paid, but it's better than him continuing to sink our defense. The last name on this list is one that might sound like a bombshell. Marcus Mariota. The Commanders have had to rely on Mariota more than they would have liked in these first 7 weeks. Jaden Daniels suffered that knee sprain in week 2, which took him out of some games. Now, he risks being out for longer after suffering a hamstring injury against the Cowboys. We need a competent backup. Mariota is exactly that. He is a capable replacement, has a solid leadership presence in the locker room, and knows how to execute Cliff Kingsbury's scheme. Several teams in the league could benefit from an improvement at the backup quarterback position, and he is one of the best available. Because of that, my initial opinion would be we cannot trade Mariota under any circumstances. Daniels' health is too questionable. But there is a scenario where this happens. If the Commanders lose the next 2 games before the deadline, we will fall to 3-6. At that point, the season is officially over. There is no more playoff contention. So, the question changes. Is it worth keeping an expensive, competent backup quarterback? Or is it worth more to trade him to a team desperate for a starter and get a good draft pick in return? This would be the true white flag on the 2025 season. It would be a bombshell of epic proportions, but there could be a strong market for Mariota if Peters makes him available. It would be the clearest move of, I give up on 2025, I'm thinking about 2026. It's a scenario that 3 weeks ago seemed impossible, but now is frighteningly real. This is our new reality, fan. Adam Peters' aggressiveness in building a winning team can quickly turn into aggressiveness in dismantling it and correcting his own mistakes. If you're as frustrated as I am with the direction of this season and think drastic changes are necessary, the first thing I ask is that you hit the like button on this video. More importantly, I want to hear your voice. Comment below, out of these 5 names, who is the first player you would trade right now? Is it Sinnott, Lattimore, Allegretti? Let me know your opinion. And if you want to follow every move until the trade deadline, subscribe to the channel now, because the coverage will be intense. My final question for you, which leaves some suspense in the air, is this. If Adam Peters really hits the sell button and trades players he himself brought in, like Lattimore and Sinnott, does this prove that his initial win-now strategy was a total failure? Or does it prove that he is exactly the cold, calculating general manager we needed to finally clean up this organization's mistakes?